Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Here's the latest. President Trump teasing an energy deal with China after both countries reach a tariff and rare earth agreement. Joining us now, I am so pleased to say, is U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright from Toronto, where he is in the G7 meetings with other world leaders, talking about energy and what can be done to build out. U.S. Energy Secretary, thank you so much for being with us. I want to start with this deal that President Trump was hinting at with China, talking about Alaska oil. What details can you provide us with? What contours of this transaction do you expect to come to light?
Look, that China is by far the world's largest importer of oil and importer of natural gas. The U.S. is by far the world's largest exporter of natural gas and by far the world's largest producer of oil. So there's so much space for mutually beneficial deals between the U.S. and China. Alaska was mentioned in that deal dialogues, enormous reserves on the Alaskan slope. They've been strangled by the Biden administration, and Alaskan production's been in decline, but lots of room for that production to grow, lots of room to bring natural gas from the North Slope of Alaska and bring that to all of our allies along the East Asian Rim, or frankly, anywhere in the world. But President Trump is just a master negotiator. He finds out what is it that's critical to the Chinese, what is it that's critical to the United States, and finds that sweet spot of a deal that works for both countries.
Could potentially the United States fill a gap if China decides to buy less energy from Russia, especially since the U.S. government sanctioned Rosneft and Lukoil?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Today, the U.S. produces 50% more oil than Russia or Saudi Arabia. And it just puts not just the United States, but the world in a better position. Can we squish out half of Russian oil exports and still have a roughly balanced oil market? Absolutely, we can.
Have you been in touch as well with your counterparts in South Korea? The president coming back on this trip talked about the tariff rate in South Korea and the plan for them to buy oil and gas in vast quantities, part of that trade deal.
Yes. I've been in dialogues with the Korean staff since I arrived in the office. Korea is a great industrial nation, also short on energy resources, but long on other assets. So, lots of room for the United States to grow our role in supplying natural gas, oil, and frankly, nuclear technology to South Korea.
I bring this up because it sounds like, are you preparing some sort of trip to the Asia Pacific if you have to meet with your Chinese counterparts and your South Korean counterparts for the United States to send more energy to that part of the world?
Oh, I go wherever the president tells me. But yes, I would be going to Asia in a few weeks, and heck, I may be going sooner than that. I'll get debriefed from all the dialogues and all what must be done promptly in the follow-up. Could be heading there very shortly. But I don't know about that right now. But of course, Asia is the center of the world economy after the United States. So, that's a critical alliances, critical partnerships, and critical oil demand sources.
Mr. Secretary, I feel like we should have a map here of all the places where you've got trips planned, because I suspect that you're going to be heading to Greece soon, too, and the whole idea of how much the U.S. is exporting in terms of energy to the European region, especially as they reduce reliance on Russia. Can you tell us anything about how that relationship is developing?
Actually, it's been great dialogues. I think the European nations, the war in Ukraine really crystallized, yes, it wasn't a good idea to have all of our key energy supply coming from Russia. Largest supplier of oil to them, largest supplier of natural gas to them, largest supplier of coal to Europe. And the United States has slid in to displace Russia as the largest supplier of natural gas to Europe. We can do the same thing with oil. And I think we're today the second largest supplier of coal to Europe. So I think there's mutual agreement on both sides there. Certainly there's some regulations in Europe, CSDDD, which is just a way overreach in the regulatory regime that's going to make it sticky to ramp up energy movement as fast as we'd like. But we're in constant dialogue to fix those problems. I'm excited about the future relationship between the European nations and the United States. It's always been good, but I think it's going to grow a lot.
Mr. Secretary, a lot of people who come on this show talk about their concerns concerns about higher energy prices in the United States. They talk about artificial intelligence, the power demands, the inability to really provide the energy that would be required to expand at the pace that a lot of AI giants are talking about. How do you plan to mitigate that? Is there a level at which power prices get so expensive that the United States will reduce some of the exports to the rest of the world?
Well, there are actually different factors that control them. Like our large exports of natural gas today are actually still relatively modest compared to the amount of gas we produce, and we can easily produce vastly more natural gas today. So power prices, the problem isn't the price of natural gas. The problem is the infrastructure, generation facilities, transmission lines. The Biden administration for 4 years forced the closure of a lot of coal plants, a few gas plants, prevented the building of new coal and natural gas power plants. They built a lot of unreliable intermittent electricity that's spread all over the country that takes more transmission assets. All of that goes into the rate base and has pushed up prices. Frankly, it's part of the reason why President Trump got elected. So we're having to reverse all those things. Stop the closure of coal plants. Make it easier to build new natural gas plants. Make new sources that want to come on be successful commercially, not dependent upon subsidies, and not require massive new transmission investments that all just go on to the ratepayers. So we're doing a lot of things at FERC. We had a big announcement last Thursday I probably can't go into here, but specifically aimed at artificial intelligence, how we can speed new firm generation without driving up the price of electricity. I share the American consumers' worries about the recent rises in price of electricity over the last 4 years, and I'm working 7 days a week to stop those price rises and enable the United States to lead in artificial intelligence.
We've seen one of the most significant announcements from this administration when it comes to nuclear. The government is planning this partnership, $80 billion for nuclear reactors, with a Canadian company, Westinghouse. Who will develop them and where? Can you give us more details about this?
Oh, I would call Westinghouse an American company. It's a legacy American company, and it's majority owned by the Americans. It has a Canadian partner in Cameco, but it's an American company. This is a plan to partner across the country at a few different locations to build, as you saw in the announcement, they gave dollar amounts, but a large amount of power. Think of order 10 gigawatts of new electric generating production capacity, and to do it in a way that's efficient. So instead of one here and one starting a few years later, we want to stage in the construction of these plants to most efficiently use construction workers, assemblers, fabrication, so that we lower the cost of nuclear generation, re-stand up the supply chain in the United States. This is quite an exciting project, and more details will come out as we fill in those dots. But President Trump promised to relaunch nuclear energy, unleash a nuclear renaissance in the United States. This is a big part of that effort.
And I wanted to get your take on a reversal we've seen from Bill Gates, someone who's long talked about climate change. He's sort of pivoting his stance. And according to his staff, you recently met with him. Did you have a hand in how now he's talking about energy?
I've had multiple great dialogues with Bill Gates over the last year, at multiple times and at some length. Of course, he's a very thoughtful, successful entrepreneur, and climate change is a real thing. It's a real challenge. It's just not remotely close to the world's top challenge. And the problem is, by putting it the top challenge, the ineffective things governments have done have raised the price of energy, lowered the reliability of the energy system, and they've stood in the way of efforts to combat hunger, food insecurity, energy security, education, and all the other global challenges. So yeah, look, Bill and I have had great dialogues. He's done fabulous stuff in public health around the world, and I'm thrilled to see him talk in a more candid way about this issue.
U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright, thank you so much for your time. Have fun up there in Toronto.